Kentucky Center for Mathematics, our virtual make and take sessions. Today, we're going to be working with Fluency and multi-digit multiplication and division. And I will be clicking the slides, but your host is Belle, and you can see her in your gallery, and you'll hear her in the background. Belle, you can take it away.
All right, I want to thank Kelly. I got up this morning and she and I was we were gonna have a little Zoom session, just go over some last minute details, and my internet was not working. So we problem solved, and she's pushing the slides from her end, and I'm gonna do the talking, I hope. So, yeah, here I am. Let me introduce myself. I am Belle Rush. I'm a regional consultant with the Kentucky Center for Math. And I'm so happy to be with all of you all today. I'm so glad to be here, and I'm glad that we've got this many people with us. I know this week we have had people from all over. I've seen people from Colorado, Wyoming, Ohio, Indiana. So it's wonderful that we are out. We are reaching our people in Kentucky in addition to other people in the nation. And here, I know most of you all here are familiar with the Kentucky Center for Math. But in case you are not, KCM, we are trying to advance the knowledge of our teachers and help them to become professional, effective mathematics teachers, and providing them those resources. And we also hope to develop that statewide leadership and become a leader in the nation too. So we've got lots of things on our website if you have not visited that before. Here's our website at KentuckyMathematics.org. We've got lots of good things on there. We've got family math, we've got things for teachers, and you can meet the staff in case a lot of you I know get emails from people here at KCM. You can get on there and look at the staff, and that way you can put a face with a name in case there's someone that you don't know. So be sure to visit our website. Our agenda for today is we're going to take just a quick look at what the research says and what the standards say. And the focus of this is for fourth grade teachers who are doing that multi-digit multiplication. Fifth grade teachers, maybe some things in there for you guys too that you can use, I hope. So we're going to take a look at the standards and the research. We would do a quick look at some strategies that you all are familiar with. Those being the arrays and area models, partial products, and properties of operations, with a special emphasis on the distributive property. We're going to do a few games. I'll show you a few games. So build it, draw it, prove it. There's multi-digit multiplication, math story matching, and nice and easy will be the 3 games. And then we're going to look at some links to manipulatives, some games for your kids, and some explanations of the strategies. All right, so this research came from the National Center for Supervisors of Math, one of their fall winter journal of 2012-13. And in it mentions that using visual models, diagrams in teaching multiplication for 4th grade, we start with that with very concrete visual models, and some of those visual models include arrays and the area model and partial products. So those are some of the ways that research says that it helps to make sense, and they're not actually doing the algorithm yet, but they are doing these things that build and help them to understand the algorithm. So in the critical areas for 4th grade, in numbers and operations in base 10, we hope for kids to work on and apply their understanding of multiplication, multi-digit multiplication using models, including arrays, area models, place value properties, in particular the distributive property. So they're developing all this understanding of multi-digit multiplication in 4th grade. And in 5th grade, it deepens. So what do the standards say in 4th grade? For multiplication of whole numbers, they are multiplying up to 4-digit numbers by a 1-digit number and a 2-digit number by a 2-digit number. So again, those strategies that students are using are based on place value. and the properties of operation, and again, with the emphasis being on the distributed property, and using those rectangular arrays and area models. So what we're doing in our standards is exactly what it says in the research. It's the way for kids, the way they understand multi-digit multiplication. All right, so here is just a quick visual model. This is something that may help parents to understand what the area model would look like, where you have 52 times 46, and you've got across the top the 50, and then the 2, and then the 40, and the 6 going down the side, so the kids can see the area. So if they can multiply 40 times 50, 2 times 40, 6 times 50, and 2 times 6.
Belle, one of the
Yes.
to mention with this is that there is an entire NCTM journal that's dedicated to this idea of area model. So thinking about our National Council of the Teachers of Mathematics said, you know what, this model is so important that we're going to dedicate the latest issue of the NCTM journal to this model. So Belle, you're 100% on something about how important this is.
Yes, thank you. It is. It's very important. And I like this graphic here because it makes that connection. On the right, you see the area model and how it connects over here to partial products, having kids to decompose those numbers and to multiply each number based on place value. So it helps kids see that connection. All right, and then this Joe Bowler video, I love Joe Bowler. She's going to explain some of these strategies. Now, this is very quick. It's less than 3 minutes. And if you send this to your parents, I would suggest having your parents watch it side by side with their child, pause it after each strategy, and then work on some of these. Pick some similar numbers that are in that strategy and have the children, have them work on these strategies. Okay, so feel free to go back and look at that video again. And like I said, with your parents, if they want to show it with their kids, sit down with their child and go over it and each strategy, and they can talk about some of those strategies. So thank you, Kelly. All right, so some of those strategies, we're going to put those into use today, and some of those things that are listed in our standards. So the first game that we've got on here is build it, draw it, prove it. And for this game, you will need your arrow cards, and those are in your handout. The children will need to print the arrow cards, and they will need their place value pieces. And I know, of course, they're not going to have these home. So there's some in the handout that they can print. So they will need those. And there's also a grid paper in there that they will need. So they'll need the arrow cards, the grid paper, and the place value pieces. And they need those pieces cut up. So the way that they would play this game, I took this picture here. They would turn over 3 arrow cards, one from the 200 pile or the hundreds pile, one from the tens pile, and one from the ones pile. They would turn over one of those to build them a 3-digit number. And I turned over 200, 400, and 40 and files to make 245. And then I used the place value pieces that the children have cut out to build 245. And so they built that number, they see it, and then they take their grid paper and they draw 245 on their grid paper.
So, Belle, this is the place where I thought that it would be great for our participants to go back and let's take a look at what she had them do, which I think was very interesting. Pull the cards and actually make one version of it, right? To go ahead and build it for 240 and then the 5. And then look what she has them do next. Have them do it on their grid paper.
Yes, so they're going from concrete with their base 10 blocks, the best that we can do at this time with kids being at home. So they're going from the concrete to the pictorial whenever the children draw it on their grid paper. All right, so then after they built their first 3-digit number, then they're going to pick up an arrow card from the ones pile with the arrow cards. So I picked up a 3. So then they're going to build that first number, that 245, build that 3 times. And then they're going to draw that. They've already drawn it once, the 245, so they're going to draw the total of 345 on their grid paper. And I put the grid paper in a pocket protector, in the sheet protector. Parents may or may not have those, so but that way they can use it over and over. And then they can write their equation to show how they got the answer. And they can write it multiple ways. If they can look at that and see 200 times 3 is 600, and then 40 times 3 is 120, and 5 times 3 is 15, or they can write down there 600 plus 120 plus 5, or 245 times 3. So they're going to write an equation, and they can write all those equations if they want to prove how they got their answer. So they built it with the place value blocks. They have drawn it on the grid paper, and then they're going to prove how they know their answer. And there are your directions for all the steps we've done so far. So partner A goes through all those steps. And these directions are also in your packet, your handouts that you're going to get. Now, if they want to play this game with a partner, partner B would repeat steps 1 through 6. So then they both have built, drawn, and did their equation for their multiplication problem. And then they have a spinner that is included. That's on the next slide. They have a spinner that says more or less. And we've done this at school. So this is a spinner the kids can have at home. They can take a paper clip, hold it with a pencil, spin it, and if it lands on more, then the child who had the bigger product would get the point. If it lands on less, the child with the lesser product would get the point. So they could play this for 5 rounds and then see who ends up with the most points.
Belle, let's stop.
Yes.
Let's have people in chat or people unmute their mics to share with us, some information. What are you thinking about this? How is it? I thought Belle did a beautiful job in linking the concrete to the representational and asking them to think about the equation. So a very powerful way that children can see what those big numbers look like, again, for multi-digit multiplication.
I think it's great that the kids can see it so many different ways because, research tells us the more ways they experience something, the more they're going to remember it. So I think, when I taught 4th grade, if I could have had this, the kids could actually see those numbers, what they really mean, it would have become a lot more real to them. So good. I love this activity.
I use the arrow cards with that area model, but I can see how important it is that they draw it on the grid paper. That is a wonderful piece that you added in there, Belle. Thank you.
Thank you.
I give Belle the shout outs for that because she really did think through that. And this is pictures that she's taken from her table. So she took pictures of it to help everybody to clarify that. But what a beautiful model.
And I used to do this when I was in MIT with my students with subtraction. I did not have kids in 4th grade doing multiplication because I just didn't go up that far when I was in MIT. But I know many of you do now. That is part of your job now, is to work with 4th and 5th graders. But I did this with addition and subtraction. So I just kind of adapted it. So you all think about that too with your kids who are working on multi-digit addition and subtraction. You can do kind of the same thing, just have them draw it on that grid paper and build it with the arrow cards. And use your place value blocks or your bundles and sticks.
Amy asked a good question in the chat box. So I'm going to go back to this one right here. And Amy, what we'll see are the visuals with regards to the area of it. And so when you've got the arrow cards and you place them one on top of the other, then as you undo your arrow cards, that helps to see your expanded notation. And then in doing that, you can see that 200 times 3 is right here. You can see that the 40 times 3 is here. And you can see that the 5 times 3 is there. So it also allows you that visual model of that. And so that's the importance of using kind of about the arrow cards and then using it in expanded form. Lays the foundation for that area model.
And to further into that too, I can't see myself on my screen here, so I can't tell if this is in the right place. But if you've not used arrow cards, am I holding it in the right place, Kelly?
I can't see you because I'm in presentation mode.
Okay, yeah, I can't see it either.
Can see you.
Yes, you're good.
Yeah.
We can put the 200.
All right. So yes, here would be 200, and make sure your kids don't cut off this little arrow right here. And so here's 200, here's 40, and here's 9. So you just place the arrows on top of each other. So yes, it does help with expanded form. I saw that question in the chat. So they could take it apart and they could put it back together with the arrows stacked up. So
arrow cards are, we give out arrow cards. I have memories of Julie passing those out and everybody having those. So if you attend some of the sessions that we have here at KCM, you get your whole set.
yes. So these, we've got some in the packet that kids can print and cut out. All right, so this one, are we ready to go on? Are there any more questions about that before I move on? All right, this next lesson that I've included comes from the Department of Education, and it's in there with 4th grade, and there's a link on we've included the link on the PowerPoint. So when you go onto this link and you scroll all the way down to the bottom, the last 3 pages have got these pages of cards. You can send these to your kids and ask them or ask their parents to cut these up. So in that first column, you have the story problem. That would be card set A. And in the second column, you have base 10 blocks. That's your card set B. In the third column, you would have your area models. And then the 4th column is your distributive property. And then your 5th column shows partial products. So it shows the different ways of solving the problem. So you would have your kids to cut these up or have your parents cut them up for their child. And you start the lesson, and the directions are in here, but you start the lessons with card set A, B, and C. So you give them all of these. There are 8 sets in there. So you give them just cards A, B, and C, and you have them to sort them. So they'll read the story problem, and then they'll look through the area models and the base 10 blocks and find the ones that match, and they're going to match these up to each other. So that's your first step. And you want to talk to your kids about how did you do that? Justify your thinking. Why do you think these go together? So you'll talk about them that way. And in my directions that I kind of retyped, or you can use the KDE directions, I put some questions in there that either you, if you're doing this with your kids on a Zoom lesson, or if your parents are doing this at home, there are some questions in there that they can ask their kids to justify their thinking. So after they've sorted those cards and you've talked to the kids about it, then you add set D and E. And set D and E, like I said, are where it shows the distributive property and the partial products. So then you'll give them these two sets of cards, and they will go through and they'll add those in. And again, they can talk to their kids about how did you determine that these went together. And again, the questions are there that they can ask.
Bill, I think one of the things that's so important is the conversations that parents can have. We've been talking here at KCM with regards to giving students some problems and really letting them dig into those problems. Now is the time, with accountability that's been lifted off of us for this school year, to give kids the problems and really think through it. So imagine that the student was matching their A, B, and C. Allow them the opportunity, encourage your parents. You can do that with your own students, right? Be the game changer there. Why did you choose this area model to model this picture? So we really want to encourage you guys to tell the story of KCM that says now's the time to give them a set of cards and let them work with them for days. To it. And so, Belle, I love the way that to do. You're reminding us to do A, B, and C, and then add on distributed property that allows them to scaffold for success.
Yes, and I just want to say one more thing too about that. It just made me think of this. My oldest brother has got a couple of foster kids, and he called me this morning. He said he's in 4th grade, and he's trying to do this multiplication. And he sent me a picture of what he was doing. I said, okay, he obviously does not have that conceptual understanding. So I sent him this very document. I said, have Kim, his wife, have her to teach him this, so that this that he's trying to do will make sense. If he does not have the conceptual understanding, and that is so critical for kids to see those numbers. And we know that, and parents need to know. He said, well, I'm just going to teach him the way I did. I said, please don't do that. I said, he does not have the concept, and this kind of helps him see the numbers. And we know how critical that is for kids to see the numbers.
So we love to always encourage you guys to say some comments. So again, I think this is the point where you can, what are you thinking about how Belle has set this up to have us do A, B, and C, and then the distributor property? What are some thoughts that you have? Please share with us.
I see Amy has said in there that she sees how the content she's teaching in 3rd grade is building onto this. So that's a very good point. Yes, I saw someone else say this is not just for intervention kids. So yes, they all need to see this.
Spectacular. All right.
All right. The 3rd strategy, this one is halving and doubling strategy. And I know a lot of 3rd grade teachers have taught this strategy with the multiplication facts, but it also works with bigger numbers, which I think is awesome. So this first video, it does not have any sound, but it is very clear on what's going on in the video. So we're going to watch this one. think that would be a good one for your kids and your parents to watch. And the other video that's embedded in the slides, we're not going to watch that one, but that one I think would be good for your kids to watch. That man in that video is very animated. I think he had his double shot of espresso. He will keep your kids' attention. He is very animated, and he does a good job explaining the halving and doubling. And I think it was in this video too, where he started with some pretty big numbers, and he kept halving and doubling the same equation several times until it got down to where, oh yeah, it's, I don't know, maybe 6 times 90, and the kids could see 6 times 9. So the more times, sometimes if you end up with some really big numbers, they kept halving and doubling until it got down to something manageable, which was cool. All right, so the game that goes along with that strategy is called Nice and Easy, and I want to thank Cindy and Dee for sending this to me. So the halving and doubling, with this one, the students would need some cues with some numbers, and the numbers are in your directions with the Nice and Easy game boards. So they would need 2 cubes, one of those with the numbers 15, 15, 25, 35, 45, and 45 on one cube. And the other cube is going to have 6, 8, 12, 14, 16, and 18. So, and they would also need the grid paper that's included in the packet. So the player 1 would roll both cubes. And in my example, I got 6 and 25. So I took my grid paper and I drew, back up Kelly. On my grid paper, I drew 6 times 25 on the area model. I drew that, and then I cut that out. So, yeah, go ahead now, Kelly. And I've got those here too, if you want to see. I cut that in half, and then moved it side by side. So you can see I cut the 6 apart where it was 6. I cut that into 3 blocks, into 2 pieces. So then I created 50 times 3. So when I took this apart, it was this 6 times 25. I took it apart and moved it to that 50 times 3. I could see that now 50 times 3 is 150, and that's easy to do in my head. So I doubled one factor and I have the other one. So then here is your game boards, where you have all the equations on the game board that's on your right. So they found that equation, 25 times 6, when they doubled in half, that turned into 50 times 3. So they would take their marker, their counter, and put it on that 50 times 3. And then over here on the left game board, they're going to find their answer, 150. Put their colored marker. And then player B would do the same thing. So they're going to try to get 3 in a row on that one. All right, this visual I just liked because, and I'm going to send this to my brother too, who's wanting to show his foster child how to do the algorithm, because I tried to tell him the reason that we want kids to see. We want them to see these numbers. We want them to break apart numbers and compose and decompose numbers. We want them to see place value. Over here on the left side, you have what your kids are doing in 4th grade. They're looking at 21 times 14. They're looking at those place value pieces. They're looking at the area models. They're looking at the partial products. But then on the left side, look what they're going to be doing down the road. It's a direct parallel. And hopefully, when those kids get to doing algebra in middle school and high school, and they see these type problems, hopefully somewhere there's going to be a connection there where they can say, oh yeah, we did this back in 4th grade. I know how to do this. So that's why we're teaching kids to see these numbers and to be able to decompose and compose numbers and look at place value. Because we want those kids to know algebra when they get down the road. All right, so here is, if you've been here all week, you've seen lots of virtual manipulatives. A lot of kids don't have dice at home, so they can get on here and hopefully make some of their own. They can use the place value, so they can use all these manipulatives here, and that's linked on there. And then the next one is toy parade, or toy theater. So lots and lots of manipulatives that kids can get on and use. And Dreambox is offering a free 90-day at-home trial. And if you've used Dreambox before, the good thing about Dreambox is that it uses a lot of the same tools that we use. It uses 10 frames and bead racks and bead strings and empty number lines. So a lot of the tools that we use, they use the same thing. It's very conceptual. And again, I certainly encourage you all who have not before invited our Kentucky Mathematics.org website, please go on there. It's got lots of good things. And all of these sessions that we've done this week will be linked on there too. So you've got the presentations, you've got the handouts, you've got everything on there, in addition to all of the other cool things that we've always had on there. So certainly I encourage you to get on there. Upcoming next week. Kelly, do you want to handle that? You want to take
I do. So we continue our series, and we will do so indefinitely. We've got lots of different online series on the horizon, but next week happens to be Let's Do Math. And the idea here is that we're going to be extending into the middle school realm. One thing that I want to mention to you guys is it is important as a professional to grow your mathematics and to think about mathematics outside of just what you might be working on. So we would like for you to encourage this 2 o'clock to 2:30 time. Join us. You're going to find the information to be very vibrant and very interesting, especially those of you who said, I can see in the chat box, oh, that was a new strategy. I hadn't really thought about that. Give a shout out to my friend Adam Durr at Collins Lane in Franklin County that's on here. And I know that he's used some of those kind of strategies, but again, growing your thinking. So next week it happens to be a focus on middle school, but we sure hope that you'll join us, because I think you're going to find that to be very refreshing. And as a professional, we grow in our learning all the time. Dale, I want to give you a shout out. You have done a beautiful job. You have overcome technology issues, and you are so kudos to you in our day. Only I will know how we started out a little worried, but we have persevered, and what a beautiful job you've done.
We did. Thank you for sticking by there and helping me get through this.
Okay. So you can always contact Belle. She's our regional consultant. She's located over there in the western part of Kentucky. And I circle back to this, and that is you are an essential part of our KCM team. We are better together because we work for you. Our job at the Kentucky Center for Mathematics is to provide resources for educators all across Kentucky. So you know I always like to end with, what is it that you have loved about today? Maybe even bigger, what have you loved about this 1 week of sessions? It was brand new for us. We were newbies at this. So tell me what you were loving about it. Unmute yourself, because I'd love to hear you.
I'm so glad that we had these sessions this week and that we're going to continue them. It's been a highlight of my day. I was supposed to help my husband work outside, and I said, sorry, I have to go in. I've got to listen to my Zoom meetings. I've really, really enjoyed it.
We didn't get to go to the KCM conference this year, and so we're really, really thankful that you're sharing these, because we feel like this is a highlight of this bad situation. So we got to meet with you all. So thank you for hosting these.
Beautiful. Casey, know that we have an intention to try to bring our KCM conference virtually somehow, some way. It's a little bigger, heavier lift, but that's on the horizon. But Casey, I know specifically how hard you work there in Jefferson County, and want to thank you and all the teachers for doing this. So I'm glad that you feel connected to us and feel a little professional development in this otherwise crazy time. Others? Well, I'm going to end it there. Time is a precious commodity. We want to thank you so much for always joining us here at the Kentucky Center for Mathematics. We are here for you, and we will see you again next week. Again, our sessions are 30 minutes, and they start at 2 o'clock. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all for being here.